Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys. Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is my lovely co-host, Landon McCool.
Wow.
Yeah, no, lovely. I changed it up on you. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, another win for the Cowboys. This feels kind of nice. I think I can get used to it.
I mean, we're throwing around words like lovely. We must be feeling very flowery and good about ourselves at this point at 4-1. It was another fun victory. Obviously we'll get into the specifics, but we talked, just to kind of get into it up from the 10,000 foot view. We talked before the game that we thought it would go one of two ways, right? That the Cowboys would get on them early and kind of bleed them dry, or that it would be kind of a tight first half, right? And then the Cowboys would kind of pull away in the second half. It looks like the latter was the choice of the game.
So, in case you missed this game, the Cowboys did get their fourth win of the season. They won 44-20. It did play out a lot like we thought, Landon. Like we thought this would be a close game for the first couple quarters, and it was. I'm looking at the play log right now. With 11 minutes left in the third quarter, this was a 17-13 type of game, and that's with Mike Glennon in this. And all of a sudden, over the next couple of minutes, I believe we're looking into the fourth quarter. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, it's 34-13 at the end of the third quarter. So, I don't want to toot our own horn, but we kind of predicted this, right? Like, we thought this would be a game where the Cowboys would have a monster third quarter. They did. They did what good teams do, right? They blew out the Giants. That's what you have to do if you want to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I know it wasn't perfect. It was sloppy. They made mistakes, but it just shows you the talent differential between these two teams, right?
That's it, exactly. To me, yes, it was not the world's best game, but I think that's kind of even somehow made it even more impressive when you look at the final score. I mean, this was a division rival that you beat by 24 points. That's pretty crazy.
And it could have been like 40 points. That's the thing.
Yeah,
easily could have been 40.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that that's, I guess my point is that the fact that they played, this level of game, this quality of game, which we would consider to be, especially early on, not one of their better football games, and we're still able to win by 24 points, running away from this thing. I think that just shows you the talent that this team has and kind of shows you where they are in the kind of hierarchy of the NFL right now.
So we've got a million different things to talk about, but we are doing this show live on YouTube, Landon. So we get some questions on the show, and I think this is a good one to start. Our podcast. This question from Ranking: why do teams still throw at Trevon Diggs? I don't know, Landon. He has 6 interceptions now. He probably should have had a couple more in this game. Like Daniel Jones was dying to throw him an interception. He didn't ultimately do it, but Mike Glennon sure helped him out there. This Trevon Diggs, not bad, right?
He's not bad. I think we're going to keep him. I was asking the question after week 3. I was asking the question after last week. I'm certainly asking the question again. Why are teams throwing at Trevon Diggs? And, I think that there is some risk versus reward there. I mean, I think he is taking some gambles and ultimately that, that's going to pay off for teams at some point.
Right.
But he's choosing such key times to take his gambles, and he's really taking very calculated risks, so it's not huge like game changing losses when he's guessing wrong. So I just think he's playing lights out, and really honestly, if the ball is in his neighborhood, he's just such a threat to go high point it no matter who he's covering at the time, that they should just avoid his side of the field. Frankly, it's ridiculous now.
He's playing outstanding football. He's got so much confidence right now. I think he feels like every pass that's targeted to him should be his. And it's hard to make an argument that it's not. He's playing just unbelievable. All right, let's talk about Dak Prescott. Obviously, this is a big game for him. He got injured in week 5 last year. We don't need to go through all that. But I thought he started the game a little sloppy. Like, I think he was a little too hyped up. And we saw that with, maybe a snap that he should have handled better, and a couple throws that, he missed, but for the most part, he was really, really good this game. I'm going to read you his stats, Landon. 22 of 32 for 302 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, averaged 9.4 yards per attempt. Probably not even in his top 3 games of this season so far, but this just shows you where the floor is for Prescott right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it shows you. I mean, he starts out at a level that is definitely kind of trending towards one of his worst games that he's played in a little while, and then to kind of be able to just turn it around and turn it on a dime and toss a beautiful 49-yard touchdown pass to Lamb in stride, and then suddenly from there he just was pouring it on. There were still times when the ball was a little bit off or it wasn't quite where it needed to be. Or at least, in the comparison to where we have been comparing Dak these last few weeks. But having said that, I do agree. I think that they were clearly in a, I mean, just by their choices at the end of the game, you could clearly tell that they were anxious about trying to really pour it on the Giants. And so they really, were pressing to kind of just keep attacking. And, I mean, ultimately it led to some pressed plays, which, can cause problems and, thankfully didn't cause any injuries. But I think ultimately when you look at it, I mean, we're so spoiled that a 68.8% completion percentage day for Dak Prescott is considered to be one of his bad games so far this year.
We should also mention the other throw that the Cowboys had in this game. Cedric Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he completed a pass. Good for him. The throw was awful, and he made the wrong read. I don't know if you saw CeeDee Lamb running down the sideline for which would
they were both open. Like, that's the thing, is that both guys, like, it seemingly they both fell down. Both their defenders fell down. So Lamb was definitely more open. I kind of feel like that he probably would have been a better candidate to catch the ball, even if it was underthrown a little bit.
I also had some people asking, why did they decide to use that play in this game when they were already up by double-digit scores?
Because they're, I mean, like I said, they're trying to pour it on to the Giants.
They're spiteful, right? Like they wanted to blow this game out. We talked about this on Friday, Landon. Like, Kellen Moore had an axe to grind. They felt like last year was their year, and the Giants robbed them of that. They wanted to score 50 on them in this game, and they were going to do it however they could. They almost did. Yeah. They were pretty close. They almost
did it. And I think I think maybe what they're also doing is setting something else up. I mean, that's probably not the final form of that play, I would imagine.
I would imagine probably not. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about DirecTV Stream. It brings you live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. We should also talk about the running backs, Landon, because the Cowboys rushing game once again was phenomenal. Another day of over 200 yards rushing. Ezekiel Elliott, 21 carries for 110 yards and a touchdown. Tony Pollard, 14 for 75. Pollard could have actually had a bigger day in this one. He had probably a 40-yard run taken back by a holding call that we didn't even get to see. They just ran the ball extremely, extremely well. Was that surprising to you?
No, I mean, I think that we talked about how they were susceptible on the edge and on the second level of this defense, and like we've mentioned before, this is the Gozer offense. You choose the final form of how you will get destroyed, and they chose to kind of play a shell and let the Cowboys kind of run at them like several other teams have. I mean, clearly teams would prefer that you run the football on them than.
Which I think makes sense, right? Because and actually the Giants' strategy worked to a degree at the part of this game because it was halftime and the Cowboys had 17 points, right? Like, now that doesn't sound like a ton, but the Giants had their opportunities, right? Like, Cowboys weren't getting big plays in the passing game. They were able to keep it close.
The problem is that ultimately coaches are coaches, right? And when you start getting 6.5 yards per carry, I don't know where they were early on before things kind of evened out, but at that early clip that they were getting yards, like eventually, the defensive coach is just gonna be like, hey, send the safety in the box. I don't want to do this anymore. And then when they do that, you go over the top of Bradbury to Lamb for, like I said, the 49-yard walk-in touchdown. So that's what they did.
The running game was just really good. Both those guys were fantastic. This is easily the best I've seen Zeke look in several years. Like I think he looks better now than he did in 2018. I think he definitely looks better than he did in 2017. So they're just running really well. I actually like the split that they had today. There was a point where Zeke had, I think it was like 20 touches and Pollard was at 10. I love Tony Pollard, but I'm fine with that. Like that's the right amount. As long as Zeke's not getting into the 24, 25, 26s where it gets a little bit out of whack, but I had no problem with how they were using their backs today.
Yeah, I mean, Pollard also got another 28 in the air, so it's like he basically had over 100 yards total, anyways, too. So, that's what we're looking for. I think both Zeke with something like 120 total yards.
Yeah, real quick, Pollard had 18 touches and Ezekiel Elliott had 23.
Perfect,
it's fantastic.
Sounds great. Yeah, and obviously was efficient. They maintained a split that wasn't overloading either of them. And again, we keep referencing it's a long season, so the more you can kind of split that up and keep them fresh. That's the thing, is they never look tired. No. It's never to the point at the end of the game that either of them look exhausted or just worn out, like we've seen with Zeke when he's gotten 30 plus carries in a game before. So this has really worked out for both parties.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys defense. I thought they did a really good job in this game. I know they gave up points at the end of this one. I'm not really concerned about it. I know Mike Glennon was a field goal drive right after halftime, but I think they started off the game with 3 straight stops. The Giants had to make some unbelievable plays to move the ball down the field. Like one of the catches that Kadarius Toney had was just unreal, and you can't play defense better than that. I thought the defense had a really, really nice day today, Landon.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's being a lot blown on kind of how close it was at certain points. But I mean, again, you're -2. You've given the ball away twice. So I think like you mentioned that they were. It was funny because you go into the half up a touchdown and you look at where the Giants were, where the Cowboys were, and the fans are like, man, they can't stop them. They can't stop them. And I was like, I mean, look at the stats. Just look at. I mean, I know what the score is, but look. They're not doing anything. Even when Daniel Jones left the game, he was completing less than 50% of his passes.
Can I read the play drives to them? I want to show you how when you're watching a game, you can kind of get caught up in how things are going. But when you look back at it, all right. So after the interception, so they had a short field, 6 plays, 15 yards, missed field goal. 3 plays, 1 yard punt. 3 plays, 7 yards punt. 7 plays, 42 yards, and a 52-yard field goal. Fine. 12 plays, 88 yards, and that's the big touchdown. That's the big one that they had to Kadarius Toney. Great drive by the Giants there. Fine. 1 play, 6 yards, halftime. 7 plays, 42 yards, field goal. Not great. Interception, turnover on downs, interception, end of the game. If their teams are going to have some nice drives on you, it's just not that big of a deal. Like when you have so many punts and turnovers like that, it's just, you're fine. And they really weren't moving the ball until the score was 34-13. Give the Cowboys defense credit. I thought they were really, really good today.
Yeah, I mean, I think the counter argument is going to be, look who they were playing.
Don't care. It's an NFL offense, right?
Yeah, it's NFL players. Like, I mean, we're just trying to get through the game, and ultimately, they didn't even score 20 points. So it's like they didn't even score 20 points. I mean, they scored 20 points while getting the ball 2 extra times. I think they had 0 points off of those 2 turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I think there's some things that need to be cleaned up that led to some of those points. Obviously, I think, if you erase that 49-yard reception from Kadarius Toney where Brown just turned around and missed the ball, which is kind of fluky. I mean, that drive kind of ends, and things kind of go from there. It's not to play, take one away, take one here, but it wasn't like sustained. It was like 8 yards here, 9 yards here. Like it was one big play, and it was another big play. That's it, right? Yeah. And so ultimately, I think it was a good performance by the defense. They were rotating guys at the end too. I think that they, there was a certain point where they knew where the game was, and I think they knew that the Giants defense weren't going to be able to stop the Cowboys offense in any real meaningful way at a certain point. So I think that they just kind of were trying to keep it all in front of them, allow the Giants to move the ball, but also kill clock while they're doing it to just try to get out of this game.
All right, let's do some winners and losers from this game, Landon. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Built Bar. You guys know Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors, and a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you'll get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, winners and losers. We got to start with Dak, right? To be able to come back from that injury, to play as well as he did, he's really my big winner in this one. And I feel like now that he's gotten through this game, he actually had a play where I think it was Julian Love was kind of grabbing him around that ankle and he still made a throw. I just feel like he's kind of buried that injury, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was kind of the last of those sort of milestones, of kind of getting through this injury, whether it's get his first practice reps, getting into real live reps in a preseason game, or sorry, he never got a preseason game, but getting a real live reps in a regular season game, and now kind of going to the scene of the crime and actually getting twisted sort of in a similar way and being able to walk away. I think it just gave him peace of mind and to kind of get through that. And I also think, like we said, it was more than that. He wanted to push past it and dominate and actually go out there and embarrass. And I think ultimately when that pressing kind of backfired, it wasn't until he really just settled into his game that you really started to see it, started to shine again. And I think that's, really where things sort of turned for him. And he started to play much, much better football in like the later part of the second half.
Do you remember when Adam Schefter said earlier this year that he would never be 100% for the entire season?
I do. I remember a lot of people suggesting a lot of things like that, frankly.
A couple other things.
I constantly remember it when I'm
just
I love it.
Just throwing that out there. This is the number of points the Cowboys have scored in their last 8 home games with Dak Prescott. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
44, 36, 41, 37, 38, 40, 47, 44.
Team 40 Burger. It's here. It's alive.
I mean, this offense at home is lights out. And that's exactly what you need to do when you have Dak Prescott. You have a team that's built around your offense. So good job by him. Loser, Jason Garrett. No other reason besides just being Jason Garrett. Next one. Let's get some more winners, right? Who do you got? Give me a winner, one of your big winners in this game.
Man, I thought CeeDee Lamb really had a good answer game tonight. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen him kind of have a successful night as a receiver. I thought he had some nights where he had a couple of good passes. He had a couple of games where he had a high target count and just kind of never converted the way he wanted. He ends up 6 targets, 4 catches for 84 yards and a touchdown. Had a nice punt return as well.
It's perfect.
I mean, he just absolutely embarrassed Bradbury on that 9 route. He just ran past him. And it was just that was one of the most beautiful deep throws and catches I've ever seen.
I thought Dak overthrew it, to be honest, when he first let it go.
I did too, and Lamb caught it in stride, in a basket. It was just absolutely beautiful. It was really well done.
CeeDee Lamb has only 14 targets over the last 3 weeks. It seems low, but when your offense is putting up 40 points per game, I don't know if you can really complain about it, right? They're supposed to be getting Michael Gallup back here, not next week, but after the bye. This team is absolutely loaded with weapons. Loser. Can I call Dalton Schultz a loser? He had a good game, right? I think he had 70 yards, but you got to make that catch in the red zone, right? I know it's the Giants and it ended up not mattering, but that's twice this year he's had plays where I think he should have kind of squeezed on the ball and made a little bit tougher catch in traffic. It's really my only knock on him.
He should have made the catch for sure. It was a tough spot. You kind of wish that Dak maybe put a little bit more on him or a little bit more in front of him. But I agree. He's got both hands on it. It's in the red zone. You got to make that a little bit
tougher there, and he'll be fine. How about our guy Osa Odigizua? Just another tackle for a loss.
Yeah, another tackle for loss is just making plays in there. I mean, I don't know if they gave him a sack for that for that fumble or the fumbled snap that they got.
I don't think they did, but that's okay.
Yeah, he was just around the ball a lot all the time, and obviously I think another 3 QB hits for Parsons as well. Besides his linebacker play, and he played really well as a linebacker too. I definitely noticed him on a couple different stops. I
got a couple more.
Yeah, give me
Tyler Biotish, loser.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, Dak was on Dak for one of those snaps.
Yes, yeah.
But the other one, I mean, that was on him.
The other thing is the snaps are coming out so slow. We talked about this last year. Like, teams are getting a beat on Biotish because the snaps are so slow that they're able to get a little jump on the tackles. It is a little concerning.
Yeah, I think there's a reason that they're still working McGovern in at practice. Every week at center. So we'll see what that ultimately happens at the position.
How about Jabril Cox for a winner?
Listen, I mean, making that play on the
got hurt, but he made a play.
Yeah, but he made the play. I certainly don't want to get anybody get injured, but I thought, what a great play to get out there and make the tackle and keep him short of the end zone. Just lots of just great individual performances. I think Kadarius Toney is got to be a loser despite his incredible performance. And we should talk about he had 189 yards receiving, but he also got kicked out for throwing and then missing a sucker punch, which is on national television, which is pretty embarrassing. So there's that too.
Yeah, it's very typical for Giants receivers to have big performances and losses, and that's all people talk about, right?
It's kind of their MO. That's what they do, right?
I mean, listen, you got to hang on to something if you're a Giants fan. There's not a lot to be excited about.
You better hope that Kadarius Toney is not on a boat right now. That's all I'm saying.
Last guy I want to mention. That's good. Malik Hooker didn't make one big play, but I did see him on the field a lot more than usual. And I just got a feeling that the Cowboys are trying to slowly work him into the rotation. Jaron Curse had a bunch of tackles in this game. I don't think this was his best game. Malik Hooker, I do think this is his best game since being a Cowboy. So I just somebody I wanted to mention. Any thoughts on him or any other Cowboys before we head out?
I would say that Hooker is the guy that's going to be the biggest beneficiary to those snaps lost by Jalen Smith, because I think Curse will end up taking a lot of Smith's snaps. And then that means Hooker's getting on the field more because you're moving Curse down as more of a nickel linebacker type. So look for Hooker to be on the field a little bit more as he gets healthier. Clearly he's a talented guy, and the Cowboys are again have a embarrassment of riches at safety, which is the hardest sentence for me to say out loud still and still mean it.
All right. So the last thing I wanted to say before we head out, I said after this game, this was a big game for the Cowboys for a couple different reasons. It's a divisional game. It's a game they're favored to win. They needed to win it. We both said, hey, good teams blow out bad opponents. It's what the Cowboys did. So yes, Landon, I'm starting to actually believe that this is a really, really good Cowboys team. It's not just a team that's might be able to squeak into the playoffs and maybe can compete in round one. Like, you watch football today, you watch the Packers, you watch some of these other games, Dallas can play with any team in this league. Like, there's not a noticeable difference from any team for the Cowboys. So obviously things are going to have to go their way. They're going to have to stay healthy and all that kind of stuff, but Cowboys are good. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and it's not even just that they're good, but they're good while playing with a whole bunch of guys, which means that their talent base is going to get better as the season goes on because their young players are playing a lot, and they are missing key players on both offense and defense that will be returning on the other side of the bye. So this team actually is probably going to improve, not just because of the young players, but because of the veteran injection that it will get of health on the other side of the bye. And there's a very real chance that they go into that bye 5-1 with a complete stranglehold of the NFC East. And that's
even if they're 4-2, let's say they slip up in New England next week, which is totally possible, right? It's not that big of a deal, right? You still are going to be up at least a game on everybody in that division. You're supposed to be getting back, let's say after the bye, Lyle Collins, Michael Gallup, Donovan Wilson, Neville Gallimore. That's 4 starters right there.
And DeMarcus Lawrence, maybe.
We'll see about DeMarcus Lawrence. I think he's probably a little closer to Thanksgiving. Kelvin Joseph will be coming back. Like, you just got a lot of guys I mean, Sean McEwen is the most important one, of course. But you got a lot of guys who can come back and actually contribute and help a team that's already playing really well. If you are a Cowboys fan, it's okay to get your hopes up with this team because I do think they're legitimately good for the first time since, I don't know, to the end of 2016. Like, this is easily the best. In fact, Landon, I'll say this. I feel better about this team than I did that 2016 team, despite them going 13-3, because Dak is just a way, way better quarterback, right? Like, when you got a guy playing at this elite level, your ceiling is really high.
They had a wider talent base now, too. I think that's the thing. They're not as top heavy as maybe they were then.
And they've got multiple paths to victory, right? Like, they don't have to just run the ball and keep games close to win it that way. They can rush for 200 yards. They can throw for 400. They can win by a defensive game. So just a really, really good team. That is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back on Tuesday to do some questions and some All-22 film review. We've got a crossover podcast later this week. We've got a preview show with the Patriots. A lot going on here on the Locked On Network, so make sure you're subscribing. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher.